Hey everybody, hope this finds you doing well. This is Danelle here at Networkchain. Today we're going to talk about Bitcoin versus gold. We'll probably need to do more than this one video about Bitcoin and gold because they're both very interesting and very valuable, or at least up to this point, valuable investments. And so with Bitcoin being referred to as digital gold, we thought it would be a good idea to lean in a little bit more into learning about gold as well as Bitcoin and the advantages and disadvantages of both. As usual, let's go ahead and start with the cryptocurrency market update. As you can see here, Bitcoin is currently trading at around $101,000. It actually got up to around $106,000 over the weekend, and Ethereum still underperforming Bitcoin and many other cryptocurrencies and smart contract blockchains, currently trading at around $3,200. It's basically flat over the last 7 days. XRP has been on a tear. It is up over 23% or around 23%, currently trading over $3. Jumped over Tether, which is the largest stable coin. You have Solana also having a really great past 7 days, really over the last few days, because they are the most used smart contract platform. It used to be Ethereum. Now it's Solana. A lot of that has to do with NFTs as well as meme coins, which has really blown up the smart contract platform. And if you wanted to get any meme coins that are being launched on Solana, you would have to buy Solana. So that's part of the reason why Solana has continued to go up, especially over the past week. It is up over 30% over the past week. Dogecoin, the biggest meme coin of them all, still is in the top 10, currently trading at the number 7 slot at 36 cents. It's up almost 10% over the past 7 days. And then you also see Cardano at number 9, Tron at number 10, and Chainlink taking up over Avalanche, which had been in the 11 spot for a little while, and now Chainlink has come up over 25% over the past week, currently trading at $24. So we're starting to see a little bit of shakeup in the top 10, and it'll be interesting to see what these next few months will hold as we really get into gear in 2025. And people believe that this is going to be a big year for crypto and a big year for Bitcoin. Obviously, that remains to be seen, but we'll see if Bitcoin is able to hold above 100,000. So you can see here, if we look at the yearly chart over the past year, we're still up tremendously over 100% over the past 12 months since this time last January. And you can see we're currently kind of in another range right now, basically between 90 and 100,000. So we've broken above 100,000 earlier in this past week. And now it'll be interesting to see if we'll get a chance to stay, if 100,000 will become support as opposed to resistance. So that's what we're looking for, is to see if this, and I guess it's somewhat of a bull flag. We'll see if it continues to extenuate longer. It will no longer be a flag per se. It will be more like this, which was an accumulation phase, which lasted for most of 2024. But you can see that once it did break out of that accumulation phase, that there was a huge breakout up to going into the all-time highs. So we shall see if Bitcoin will actually start to see more movement and take another leg up, but we could still be in this range for a little while. Time will obviously tell. There's a lot of macroeconomic factors that are involved into why Bitcoin could be seeing a higher price. There's a possibility that we'll see nation states start to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. So we're going to continue to obviously keep you posted as we learn more about the demand that is coming into Bitcoin. If we look at gold, if we look at their chart, they've actually done very well over the past year. You can see that they actually had been consolidating pretty much for several years, dating all the way back to 2020, and they were in this accumulation phase for several years. And then 2024 they had a breakout, and you can see it's been doing very well, and it was a nice steady climb over 2024 and now at the beginning of 2025. So if we look at the chart and compare gold to Bitcoin, you can see here that Bitcoin has way outperformed gold over, let's say this is, I believe, over the last 5 years. Yes, it's about the last 5 years or so. And you can see that Bitcoin has basically blown gold out of the water. You can see gold's done about a 72% return since 2020, and Bitcoin has done basically over a 10x in the last 5 years. So, but with that, you can see there's a lot of volatility. So when we look at Bitcoin as investors, those of us who have tried to invest in Bitcoin and have been hodlers, as we call ourselves in the Bitcoin world, is that you have to zoom out, because there's going to be a lot of volatility. As you can see, there was a ton of volatility in 2021 when it reached all-time highs, and then you see that it was a huge drop down and downtrend in 2022, and then it started to make its rise back up in 2023 on forward. And when people look at this from a technical standpoint, they actually like to see this smiley face. That usually is a bullish trend when you see that there's a bottom here that was formed, and then you see a run up, and then usually after, they call this a cup and handle. So you have this cup here and then handle, and then Bitcoin did what a lot of technical analysts like to see, and it's now starting a new run up. So this is kind of a what they call a bull flag. So we'll see if this will be a bull flag. If it continues to extend for a longer period of time, it wouldn't necessarily be considered a flag, but a bull flag is if it tightens up here and coils up and then takes the next move up. So we shall see if Bitcoin will continue to stay on the upward trend over these next couple of months. So if we look here at gold versus Bitcoin when it comes to the ETF inflows, the gold ETF is one of the best performing ETFs of all time. And you can see here just in 1 year how much Bitcoin has totally demolished gold in terms of the performance that it had in its first year on the market. Now, obviously, this is another decade, another year. There's a lot more money that is flowing into the capital markets, and so obviously that has a lot to do with it. But when you just see the difference, you see that the gold ETF did under $5 billion in assets under management, and you can see that in its first year, the Bitcoin ETF did over $36 billion. So obviously, we'll continue to keep track of this over the next several years to see if Bitcoin will continue to have this trend of beating gold way out of the water. But you can see here that basically over time, the gold ETF continued to see inflows, and it continued to do well. It had a little bit of an outlier year here in year 6. And it came back down to basically its average trend line, but it still continued to see a run up over time. So it will be interesting to see for sure what the BTC inflows will be for the Bitcoin ETF and the 11 ETFs that are currently on the open market in the United States. So if we go here and break it down a little bit more, when you look at gold versus Bitcoin, an overview here on investopedia.com, this is always a great resource to learn a little bit more about investing. So if you look at what they're saying here, the key takeaways is that gold has been an asset that holds value over long periods of time and is used to hedge against market downturns. So people will say that gold is an inflation hedge. So when inflation tends to be really high, people tend to move their money from risk on assets like, say, tech stocks, for example, and move it over to gold because it tends to hold value a little bit better and it's not as volatile. So that's why a lot of people like to put their money into gold. Also, gold has a utility not only as a store of value, but obviously it is used for jewelry, it's used in chips, it's used in a variety of different items. And so gold has a utility in a physical form. So that's definitely one of the major differences between gold and Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin is being called digital gold because it also is being looked at as a store of value and an inflation hedge. Now, it's obviously a lot more volatile, as we saw in the chart comparing gold versus Bitcoin. You can see obviously that there's a lot more volatility when it comes to Bitcoin versus gold, But over time, Bitcoin has been the far better performing asset. But obviously, gold has been around for thousands of years, and Bitcoin has only been around. This is its 16th year. So it still has a long ways to go in terms of proving itself out, in terms of it being a asset that can be relied upon and a time-tested asset. It's not there yet. So obviously one of the biggest things when it comes to people who are gold bugs, as they call them, is that the stability of gold is much better and much more attractive than Bitcoin because of its high volatility. But when it comes to returns, there's no doubt, at least up to this point in the lifetime of Bitcoin, Bitcoin has highly outperformed gold, particularly over the past decade. So obviously the future growth is still uncertain, but when we look at the demand that is coming into Bitcoin, we see here once again, we're looking at bitcointreasuries.net. You see here from the different ETFs and funds that have invested in Bitcoin, you can see that the Bitcoin ETFs, at least the 11 that are launched in the United States, have now over 1 million Bitcoin. And when you see BlackRock, which is a asset manager, the largest asset manager in the world, having over $11 trillion in assets under management, they have put their full marketing behind IBIT and the IBIT ETF. They have the most out of all of the Bitcoin ETFs at 559,000 Bitcoin. When you look at these asset managers who manage trillions and trillions of dollars, have now decided to get into Bitcoin, and they see the value of Bitcoin, that just goes to show that the so-called smart money is now getting hip to Bitcoin. So that's just another reason why it's something that could be interesting to look at as an investment. Obviously, we're not financial advisors, so you need to do your own due diligence, but we believe that this is an asset that will continue to see demand coming into the asset. You have not only public companies, but you have nation states. Obviously, the United States still leads the way, barely, at least as far as what we know. China obviously is a large holder of Bitcoin. We're hearing that some countries in the Middle East is also buying Bitcoin. We don't know for sure just yet. That could be coming out in the next several months or so, sometime in 2025. And then, of course, we're seeing a lot of public companies that are adding Bitcoin to the balance sheet. And we've talked about this many times. Obviously, MicroStrategy still being the #1 publicly traded company with over 450,000 Bitcoin, and Michael Saylor, the founder of MicroStrategy and chairman, has hinted that probably by the time you see this, that they would have bought even more Bitcoin. So these green dots represent the purchases, and he said that this chart will change tomorrow, so there likely will be another green dot by the time you see this video. So just something to think about when it comes to gold and Bitcoin. As you can see here, is a young and unproven investment, but cryptocurrency speculators have used it successfully to store value over a period of time. Once again, you got to look at it from a longer time frame, not just a month or several months or even a year. You have to look at it over several years, over the lifetime of Bitcoin. You definitely have seen an incredible return on your investment if you held. Which is a better investment depends on your risk tolerance, because once again, Bitcoin is very volatile, not as volatile as gold, at least up to this point, and it depends on your investing goals and strategy and the amount of capital that you can handle potentially losing, or at least losing on paper. So definitely something to think about. We'll definitely continue to make sure that we bring you more information when it comes to how Bitcoin is performing, obviously how some of the other major cryptocurrencies are performing, but we really appreciate you checking us out here on Networkchain. Thank you so much for your support. We look forward to linking up with you soon on the Networkchain. In the meantime, check us out on Instagram as well as X. Take care. Bye-bye.